Hello students, welcome back to another English Solutions for Business and Life video. Remember that you can always get in touch with us or contact us at EnglishSolutions001@gmail.com. Let's begin. Remember that this video will cover our Unit 4 in our elementary book, and this is the grammar that you will find in this section. Okay, today we're going to talk about existence using the expressions there is and there are. Also, we will talk about countable and uncountable nouns. We are going to explain this in more detail later on. And finally, we're going to talk about quantifiers such as some and a lot of. Let's begin with our first item. We have the expression there is, which expresses existence. And let's remember that this is singular and the verb to be is necessary, in this case is. And if we're using a countable such as iPad, car, book, house, an article is necessary. What article? Normally the article a or the article an. And here we have some examples with it. In the first one, we have there is a pen on the table. There is a pen on the table. Our negative example is there isn't a pen on the table. There isn't a pen on the table. And our question example is there a pen on the table? Is there a pen on the table? As you can see, these examples are very similar, but they have some differences. In the first one, as you can see, we have the expression there is. And we have our article, in this case a or a, and then we have our noun, which is necessary for this, and our complement for all examples, which is on the table. In our negative example, we have there isn't a pen on the table, and we have our expression in negative. You can see it from this. We have again our article, our noun, and then again the same complement, on the table. Now, if I want to make a question, as you can see, what we do is we have an inversion of elements. We change the there and is, we swap them, we change them, and then we have is there. And we say, is there a pen on the table? Don't forget that intonation here is important, and we rise the intonation at the end. On the table. Okay, if we want to answer yes with a short answer, we say yes, there is. We only mention the same expression. And now, if our answer is no, we say no, there isn't. And then again, in this case, we use the negative form of the expression. Now, let's analyze the expression there are. Remember, again, that this expression is for existence. Existence. And it's used to talk about plural, which is more than one. In this case, no article a or an is necessary here. And remember that our noun has to be in plural. For example, cars, books, desks, and all, and etc. And we normally use it with a quantifier such as many, some, a lot of, and you'll see why. Alright, you look at these examples here. We have our affirmative, negative. There was a little problem there. So well, then again, we have affirmative, negative, and a question form. And let's analyze the first one. There are some books on the desk. There are some books on the desk. Negative. There aren't any books on the desk. There aren't any books on the desk. Question: are there any books on the desk? Are there any books on the desk? Let's analyze the affirmative form. As you can see, we have our expression in affirmative. The expression is there are. We have the expression some, which is not an exact number. Not one, more than one, but not many. We have our noun in plural, and we know it's in plural because it has an S, books, and then we have our complement on the desk. And this is the complement we're going to use for all the examples here. Our negative form is there aren't any books on the desk. And we have our expression in negative. As you can see, we don't use some, we're going to use the expression any. We have again our noun in plural, books, and the complement we mentioned before, on the desk. Then in our question form, we have the expression changed from there are to are there. And then we have again our expression any. We have our noun in plural, books, and finally our complement on the desk. And then again, don't forget that your intonation has to rise. Are there any books on the desk? Because it's a question. If our answer is yes, we answer yes, there are. Or negative, no, there aren't. Let's continue with our next item, which is countable nouns. And, two important things to mention. The first, of course, and obvious too, is that you can count them in units. And also, if you want to use them, you will need the article a or an, a number, or the expression some. And you can also use the expression many. We have some examples of countable nouns are hotel or hotels, car or cars, person or people, cell phone or cell phones, house or houses, and hot dog or hot dogs. Let's look at some examples I wrote here. Example number 1, I have 2 cars in my garage. As you can see, here we have our noun, our countable noun in plural form, and we have a number to express it. In the second example, I saw a person at my door when I arrived. We have the article a and the countable noun in singular form. In the third example, we have she had some reports to finish when she got home. And as you can see, we have the expression some, and we have our noun, our countable noun, in plural form. The next item to review is uncountable nouns. 2 important things to mention about them is, the first one is that you cannot count them in units, and they don't have a plural form. Also, when you want to express them or use them in a sentence or an idea, you can use the expressions some, a little, or a lot of. Some examples of them are money, fruit, milk, chocolate, water, or gas. I wrote some examples for you too. In the first one, I'd like some fruit, please. I'd like some fruit, please. As you can see, you have the expression some, and we have our uncountable noun next to it. In the second example, she has a little milk in the fridge. We have then again our expression little and our uncountable noun next to it. Also, remember that it's in singular form. The next one, my friend has a lot of money. My friend has a lot of money. Then again, we have the expression and our uncountable noun in its singular form. Let's continue with our last item, which is quantifiers. Okay, important to mention that they express a quantity, and some are for countable nouns and others are for uncountable nouns. Okay, now let's review the affirmative. For countable nouns, we have lots of, and also some. For uncountable nouns, we have a lot of, and also we have some. Okay, here are there's one example here for countable nouns. Example number 1. There are lots of shops. In this case, I am expressing a big quantity. And in the second example, there are some books. I am expressing a small quantity. And for uncountable nouns, we have it costs a lot of money. And here we're talking about a big quantity. And in the second one, we have there's some food. And here we're talking about a small quantity. Let's continue with quantifiers. Now for negative and questions. Now for countables, we have how many, any, many. And for uncountable nouns, we have how much, any, and much. Let's give some examples. Now let's start with the countables. In here we have 4 examples using different expressions with countable nouns. We have number 1. How many bananas are there? As you can see, we're using our expression we just mentioned, and in this is asking for the quantity of bananas maybe in the refrigerator or in the house. Number 2. There aren't any apples. We have our expression any, and in here we're saying that the quantity of apples is 0. In number 3, are there any restaurants? We have our expression and we're asking for the quantity. They're asking if there is existence of restaurants in the area. In our fourth example, we have there aren't any oranges. And then we have our expression any. And again, in this case, we're expressing that the quantity of oranges is 0 again. Now, for uncountable nouns, we have 4 examples too. The first one, how much rice is there? We have our expression, and here we're asking for the quantity of rice in the refrigerator, in the house, in the warehouse. We don't know. In number 2, there isn't any juice. We're using an expression any with an expression in negative, and we're mentioning that the quantity of juice is 0. Not at all. No juice for us. In the third one, is there any milk? We have our expression in a question, and we're asking for the quantity of milk in the house, for example. In the last one, there isn't much fruit. We have our expression much, and we are saying here that the quantity of fruit in the house or whatever is small. not 0. Just a very quick review. Remember that this time we saw existence, we talked about countable and uncountable nouns, and we also reviewed quantifiers. We have there are some examples that we saw. There are the explanation and function, and some examples. Countable nouns. Remember that there are things you can count, and you use them with an article, a number, or some. We had some examples, some sentences using them. We also talked about uncountable nouns here. Remember that you cannot count them in units. You can count them, but using expressions such as some, a little, or a lot of. We have some examples of uncountable nouns too. We have some sentences too. Quantifiers, remember that they express the quantity, and there are some specific words or expressions, quantifiers, for countable nouns and also for uncountable nouns. In the affirmative, we use lots of or some for countable and a lot of or some for uncountable too. We have some examples for big quantity and small quantity. And for uncountables, we had an example for a big quantity, expressing a big quantity, or a small quantity. In negative in questions, remember that we ask with how many for countable nouns and how much with uncountable nouns. We have also the expression any in both, and many for countable nouns and much for uncountable nouns. We also reviewed some examples, some that express a zero quantity or a small quantity. So I hope that this video was useful for you guys, and remember that you can watch this video as many times as you want. See you in our next recording. Goodbye.